President Bola Tinubu jets out to Guinea-Bissau to attend the 63rd ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the ECOWAS. And following the controversy of the UTME result, Mesoma Ejikeme admits to using her phone to manipulate results. And President Zelensky hails Ukraine on the 500th day of war. Your television, I am Akioma Eneji. President Bola Tinubu has departed Abuja for Guinea-Bissau to attend the 63rd ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States in Bissau, the country's capital. The President's Special Advisor on Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, Dele Alaki, revealed this in a statement on Friday titled, President Tinubu attend ECOWAS Summit in Guinea-Bissau. Participants at the summit, which begins on Sunday, are expected to address memoranda on 5 pressing sub-regional issues. Guinea-Bissau is the first African state Tinubu is visiting since assuming office on May 29, 2023. And the Nigerian Senate says it will probe the concession of the Aminu Kano International Airport and the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, saying the probe is necessary because the process of concessioning the airports were not done transparently. The Senate resolved to probe the concessioning of the airports followed a motion by Sumaila Kawu, who said from the combined examination of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria FAN Act and the ICRC Procedures Manual, it is evident that the concessioning was based on a faulty foundation. He argued that the Federal Ministry of Aviation does not own or run any airport in Nigeria, rather by the dictates of the Governing Act of FAN on FAN ownership and management of all federal government airports are fully vested in FAN. The lawmaker stated that he is alarmed that Nigeria is receiving a concession fee upfront of $1.5 million, while the total amount of money that the Kano Airport is accruing to the government is $97.4 million.
Disturbs that this concession is clearly dubious and the rise question on the process and what the actors stand to gain. Recall that unions in the aviation industry embark on strike to question the integrity of the concessioning exercise, stressing that the concessioning of the airport away from PAN will necessarily cause or halt the employment of the staff involuntarily.
Other senators consequently condemned the concessioning of the airport, which they argued was shabbily done.
That some people can just come up and a Federal Executive Council, fully constituted, and approve this mindless contract. Concession. What is concession? And why do we concede? Why do you concede? You do it because of some parameters laid. But this particular concession was done in a dubious manner, in a manner that begets any imagination. I have personal issue on this because my state too is affected. The Kashimbila Dam, that the multi-purpose dam that was built for so many years, millions of dollars have been spent. The same thing like that, few days to the end of the former administration, the same thing happened. So, Mr. President, that is something. Water resources, Ministry of Aviation, the two people mislead the Executive Council. So, I want to go straight to the point. They have to invite them to come and explain, because in aviation, the fraudulent act is too much.
In his remarks, Deputy Senate President Jibrin Barau, who presided over Thursday's plenary session, noted that the concession was the best way to move forward as it was one of the best practices all over the world. He, however, agreed that the process to be reviewed to meet international best practices.
Is what is in vogue all over the world as we speak, because government is not a good manager of businesses. I can remember even Heathrow Airport has been concessioned even to a Nigerian, and the airport is doing very well, but in a very transparent and open manner. Well, let's not put the cart before the horse. We allowed relevant committees, as proposed, as adopted here, to investigate, to find out the truth about what is being alleged.
And the federal lawmaker representing Isikwato Umunechi Federal Constituency of Abia State, Amobi Oga, has condemned the brazen attacks on indigenes of Isikwato and Umunechi local government areas of Abia State by kidnappers, assassins, bandits, and other criminal elements, and these have lingered for more than half a decade. Oga says the activities of these bandits and criminal elements have forced the Nigerian military to close traffic on the Ihube-Isuochi road at the Lomara military checkpoint for a long time. He called on the federal government to intervene and take urgent action to curtail the dangerous trend, stating that the primary function of government is the protection of lives and property of its citizens.
Issue now, and which federal government have more power on issue of security, but we are doing a lot. Even we have a plan to see how we can engage with locals to form like vigilante groups to see, because it's very hard for foreigners to secure the indigenes. Using the indigenes will a little help us. But you know, the issue of this kidnapping is not only in my constituency, it's all over the country.
And the police on Friday busted a gang of gunmen attempting to enforce an illegal sit-at-home in Enugu in the early hours of the day. This was disclosed by the police public relations officer of the command, Daniel Undukwe, in a statement he issued in Enugu. Undukwe disclosed that the further manhunt by a combined team of tactical police operatives of the command after an early morning clash with the gunmen led to the recovery of the lifeless bodies of 4 of the male hoodlums in a forest at Akunau in Enugu, where they escaped into. Meanwhile, the Enugu State Commissioner of Police, Ahmed Amani, has once again reassured that the police and other security forces in the state shall not relent in their efforts to maintain maximum security and safety of the law-abiding citizens. And the Committee of Inquiry set up by the Anambra State government to look into the examination fraud involving Mesoma Ejikeme has confirmed that she manipulated her Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination results, giving herself a score of 362 as against an actual score of 249. The committee, in its 8-page report, said that the student of Anglican Girls Secondary School in Nnewi admitted that she manipulated the fake result herself using her phone. Mesoma gained the attention of Nigerians recently following the controversy relating to her UTME results. However, JAMB later came out to deny Mesoma's claim of being the highest scorer in the 2023 UTME, saying that the student faked the result she was parading. The exam body said that Mesoma actually scored 249 and not 362. According to the committee, Mesoma is expected to tender a written apology to JAMB, the Anglican Girls Secondary School, and the Anambra State government. We'll take a quick break now, and when News Love returns, the federal government lines up 8 judges to try 2,000 Boko Haram suspects. Details of this and more comes to you shortly after the break. Do stay tuned.
Nigeria belongs to all of you, all of us. Our diversity is an asset if we know how to use it for our prosperity. We must promote unity, stability, and economic justice for every one of us.
We all know that no child is born with hate. Hate is taught. We know that the first step of socialization for a child is the family. The child begins to hear about hate from parents, from siblings. They begin to hear about stereotypes. We then move to the schools, and then we keep being socialized, this time by the media, by religious organizations, by political issues that we see happening, and they've begun to internalize hate. Then what that means is that that adult who was a child born without hate becomes the person who continues the next circle of socialization. And when people begin to fight each other, especially at the local level, then we'll have a war on our hands, and we know how difficult it is to stop wars.
You're welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is News Live on Viewer Television. A quick recap of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu jets out to Guinea-Bissau to attend the 63rd Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the ECOWAS. And Mesoma Ejikeme admits to using her phone to manipulate results. And President Zelensky hails Ukraine on its 500th day of war. Academic performance, as the Academic Board of Kogi State Polytechnic Lokoja has approved the withdrawal of 313 students over poor academic performance in the first semester of the 2022-2023 academic session. The withdrawal followed the consideration of the report of the Academics Board Central Result Verification Committee at the meeting of the board held on the main campus on June the 22nd, 2023. A statement by the head Public Relations and Protocol Unit, Omale Oredo, gave the breakdown of the withdrawal as comprising students from 17 departments and 28 programs. Chaired by the rector of the Polytechnic, Dr. Salisu Usman, the board disclosed that the decision was part of the resolve to maintain high academic standards and breed worthy academic ambassadors. Still within education, the Plateau University Bokos had confirmed that it received 1.2 billion naira intervention from the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. Bernard Matu, the Vice Chancellor of the university, announced in an interview in Bokos. Matu said that 64 academic and non-academic staff of the university were currently on scholarship within and outside the country funded by TET Fund. The Vice Chancellor added that 25 new academic programs were introduced in the institution in addition to the 17 existing ones. Mature permits to promote quality academic standards in the university, adding that such move would enable its graduates to compete favorably in the wider society. Meanwhile, as the indigenous people of Biafra sit-at-home violence intensifies, the national president of the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, Yerima Shetima, has called on the southeastern governors to take measures in protecting the lives and property of Northerners living as minorities in southeastern communities of Nigeria. The president of the forum made this known during an exclusive interview with our correspondent in Kaduna.
In a country where you have a democratically elected president, where you have elected governors, where you have local government chairmen, single-handedly people will pick into arms, live arms, and go into markets and attack innocent Nigerians in the name of agitations, in the name of sit at home, in the name of making points, forgetting that those people needed to come out on daily basis to sell and go to the market to fend for their family to survive. Then suddenly somebody will bring out gun on the day broad light and be shooting in the name of some people refuse to comply with sit-at-home order.
The federal government is set to commence the trial of about 2,000 Boko Haram members arrested for participating in terror activities and has lined up 8 judges to handle the special trial. The trial will take place in Kenji, Niger State, under a secure environment provided by special security outfit Operation Safe Corridor, with many of the suspects already in detention at the facility. Top security and ministry sources disclosed that the arrangement for the trial of the suspect had been concluded by the Ministry of Justice in the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, but some logistic issues frustrated the move. The jail terms range from 3 to 60 years, while over 1,500 persons allegedly affiliated with Boko Haram have been released for rehabilitation over the years. And the Benin Zonal Command of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arraigned Precious Ojo and Joseph Uduahan before Justice F.A. Olubanjo of the Federal High Court sitting in Nasaba, Delta State. The EFCC spokesperson Wilson Uwajaren, in a statement in Abuja, says Ojo and Uduahan were arraigned on 10 and 3 count charges respectively for offenses bordering on fraudulent impersonation, obtaining by false pretense, and money laundering. Ojo, aka Obago allegedly impersonated one Peter Gabriel, an American medical doctor purportedly working in Syria, to defraud his unsuspecting victim, Agatha Harris-Mulwich, an American lady, of the aggregate sum of $268,000. Udwahan, on his part, is alleged to have received the aggregate sum of 170 million naira from Ojo, which he used in the construction of a hotel. Upon arraignment, the defendants pleaded not guilty to the charges, prompting the prosecution counsel, Francis Jebel, to pray the court to fix a date for trial. And on business news, the federal government's spending on personnel costs and debt servicing exceeded the total revenues in 2022, according to the World Bank. It also disclosed this in its June 2023 edition of the Nigerian Development Update. According to the Washington-based bank, this was the first time the federal government's personnel costs and debt servicing surpassed its total revenue. The bank added that as a result of this spending on capital expenditures weakened, personnel costs and interest payment on loans made up 59% of the government's total expenditures. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria has said that it received no fewer than 35,453 complaints from bank customers relating to failed transactions in the last 10 years. The Apex Bank said within the period, the sums of 115.45 billion naira and over $22.7 million were refunded to customers as a result of failed transactions. This was disclosed by an official of the Consumer Protection Department of the CBN, Elachi Samuel, in a presentation during a one-day sensitization fair for stakeholders in Bauchi State. The fair had a theme promoting alternative payment channels as tools for financial inclusion. And Samuel urged customers to first report their disputes to the financial institutions for quick and amicable resolution before approaching the Apex Bank with further complaints if they were not satisfied with the actions of the institutions. Meanwhile, oil prices climbed about 2% to a 6-week high on Friday as supply concerns outweighed fears that further interest rate hikes could slow economic growth and reduce the demand for oil. Brent futures rose to $1.21 or 1.6% to 77.73 barrel. West Texas immediate crude rose to $1.23 to 73.03. Both benchmarks were on track for their highest closes since May 24, with Brent about 4% of the week. On the supply rise, top oil exporters Saudi Arabia and Russia announced fresh output costs this week, bringing total reductions by the OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Companies, and its allies to around 5 million barrels per day. And the U.S. economy added that fewest jobs in 2.5 years in June, but persistently strong wage growth pointed to still tight labor conditions. The Labor Department's closely watched employment report on Friday also showed 110,000 fewer jobs were created in April and May, indicating that higher borrowing costs were starting to dampen businesses' appetite to continue boosting headcount. There was also a jump in the number of people working part-time for economic reasons last month, in part because their hours had been reduced due to work slack on business conditions. Nevertheless, the pace of job growth remains strong by historical norms and was further evidence that the economy was far from dreaded recession. Lesotho is a country that has always prided itself on production of wool and mohair until a deadly drought started spreading around 2011 and pinnacled in 2015, increasing the proportion of people living below the line. This story, Sekeleme and his family colleagues established the Masotho Maklang Grazing Association on the recommendation of the Lesotho Highlands Development Authority.
Ramuroa Sikeleme, a farmer in the Tsana Talana rangelands of southwestern Lesotho, has deepened on wool and more high income for a living for 2 decades. However, in 2011, climate change became a reality for him. Research shows it is a climate crisis that requires immediate attention. Sekeleme and his farming colleagues established the Tsoararang Kamotsho Makahale Grazing Association on the recommendation of the Lesotho Highlands Development Authority.
As we used to, but more importantly, to improve the quality and the quantity, as we're seeing. When we look at production of either wool and mohair, we look at both the individual farmer, but we also now want to look at the country as a whole. Yes.
Sekeleme, who is the group chair, says the association has helped smallholders like him preserve the rangelands since its establishment in 2019. The association has also benefited from a partnership with Lesotho's Wool and Mohair Promotion Project.
So what we are trying to do as a project is to ensure that that individual farmer increases productivity.
The project has also built capacity for the country's weather forecasting department, purchasing ultra-modern forecasting equipment to ensure farmers get accurate information on weather patterns for adequate planning. Before the project, much of the rangelands were strained, making unpalatable species overgrow.
But to also now specifically give them skills of when they plan, they should plan bearing in mind what the weather forecast is saying.
Sekeleme and his farming colleagues acknowledge that they generated higher incomes and more sustainable livelihoods.
According to the Food and Agriculture Association, Organization of the United Nations, wheat and barley are the two most important cereal crops in Tunisia. In 2018, the total production of wheat in Tunisia was estimated at 2.3 million metric tons, while the total production of barley was estimated at 0.3 million metric tons. However, the production of both crops have been increasing over the past few years, and researchers attribute the increase to returning of farmers to the indigenous seeds.
Hassan Chotai, a Tunisian farmer and indigenous seed researcher in Monogoer, is someone who has seen firsthand the disasters brought about by the introduction of modern wheat and barley seeds across the nation. Chotai, who started farming at age 12 on his farmers' and grandparents' farms, saw farmers in his region lose their produce when imported exotic seeds that failed to provide adequate yields when local environmental conditions changed.
الوزارة التونسية عندها فكرة ومتعلمة وتعرف المناخ التونسي كما يجب تعريفه بقطع النظر على أن البذور المستوردة ليس لها علاقة بالأوطان متاعنا وبالتالي طبعا تتأثر برشا بالمناخ وتتأثر برشا بالطبيعة.
With the help of the National Gene Bank of Tunisia, Ramzi Chabain, the Director General, says farmers now have access to indigenous seeds that are resistant to biotic stress that affected normal growth, a challenge common in exotic seed species.
La résistance au stress biotique, c'est-à-dire les maladies et ennemis des cultures, la tolérance au stress abiotique, c'est-à-dire les stress abiotiques, la haute température, l'hydromorphie, la sécheresse et ainsi de suite, qui ne cessent d'accentuer avec les changements climatiques. Donc les ressources génétiques autochtones, normalement, elles contiennent des gènes d'adaptation au milieu.
In this case, the indigenous seeds have become a form of gold to the economy, offering to boost not only the coffers but also the health of the nation.
Sont adaptées au changement climatique, elles sont adaptées aussi aux conditions édaphiques au sol dans les régions marginales, elles sont adaptées aux problèmes des changements climatiques, la haute température, l'hydromorphie, la sécheresse et ainsi de suite. Elles contiennent des gènes de résistance aux maladies. Je ne dis pas qu'une seule variété autochtone contient tout ça, mais chaque variété autochtone a son background génétique, a son patrimoine génétique qui permet de trouver, dans ces ressources, on peut identifier des gènes de résistance qui sont utiles aujourd'hui et qui restent.
Beyond using native seeds, Chotoy advocates for climate-smart approaches to counter the effects of climate change.
عنده طريقة وتكون عنده أراضي خاصة ببنك الجينات باش هو يكثر بذور ويبدا هو عارفها ومشرف عليها، مش يعطيها الفلاحة. نجم فلاح تعطيه بذرة كيما هذه وتقول له كثرها لي كي غيرها لك، كي بدل، يعني كيف تعطيه انت نوعيه وهو يرجع لك نوعيه اخرى. انت شنو مش تعرف؟ ما عندهمش خبراء اللي هي تنجم تفرز ما بين الحبه والحبه.
Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed brave Ukraine on the 500th day of Russian invasion on Saturday as the world toll mounted with 6 deaths reported in Russian rocket fire. Zelensky published on social media an undated video clip of a visit to Snake Island and the Black Sea, a symbol of Ukraine's defiance against Russia. Finishing a trip to Turkey on Saturday, Zelensky prayed for the victims of the war alongside Patriarch Bartholomew, the leader of the world's Orthodox, after a regional tour to drum up support ahead of a NATO summit next week. The UN has documented 9,000 civilian deaths since the start of the war on February the 24th, 2022, including 500 children, although it estimates the real toll could be significantly higher. And 4 assailants were killed on Saturday after blasting their way into an Iranian police compound, leaving 1 officer dead in the southeastern province of Sistan, Baluchistan, near the Pakistani border, a state media has confirmed. According to the province's deputy head of security, Alireza Mahamati, the attackers used grenades to blast open the gates of the police station, and an exchange of fire occurred. The Quds force in charge of operations abroad for Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said the attack involved 4 terrorists, all of whom were killed in the clash, in the IRNA state news agency reported. Iranian police did not give details of casualties in the incident, but local news agency reported 1 Iranian border guard had been killed. Afghanistan's ruling Taliban said 1 person was also killed on each side. And that's the much we can take on News Live today, but before we go, a quick reminder of our headlines. We brought you news that President Bola Tinubu has jet out to Guinea-Bissau to attend the 63rd ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the ECOWAS. We also informed you that Mesoma Ejikeme has admitted to using her phone to manipulate her UTME results. And President Zelensky hails Ukraine on its 500th day of war. Many thanks for watching. I am Ekioma Eneji. Bye for now.